Hi, Kevin. It's good to see you.
Hey, Nancy, what's happening?
Uh, you know, it's crazy here today. It was 100 on Saturday, and it's raining, sleeting, and snowing in
It's
Denver.
it's 2020, Nancy. It's great COVID craziness.
It is COVID crazy. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Nancy Sullivan. I'm the manager of Section Services, and I am joined by my friend Kevin. Kevin, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, I'm in the DC Government Affairs Office out here in Washington, DC, where things are never crazy.
We just discovered that I have about 4 bags of potato chips, all the same flavor, open. And Kevin has been trying to teach me how to consolidate them instead of going crazier.
It's resource management, Nancy.
Resource
We probably
management.
have a standard for that.
There probably is, and I've probably ignored it. Um, but I'm glad to be able to see you today and talk to you. Kevin and I are here to kind of talk about this big event that we're having at AWWA, the virtual summit. It's just around the corner. I don't want to say whose birthday is right after it, but I'll be expecting all sorts of birthday cards on September 26th. Kevin,
Because you're going to be 26, of course.
I'll be 20. I'm going to be 25 again. Um, but the virtual summit is on September 23rd and 24th. And, I was looking at it. I've been looking at it over the last couple of weeks in terms of content. And I'm just really impressed with the amount of content we have. So what we thought we'd do today is sort of talk about some of the sessions that we know about, we're either personally working on, or something we think that you people out there might want to know about. So I'm going to turn it over to Kevin first, because I know he is working on a couple that would be of interest to almost anyone in the water industry.
Yeah, so I'll share a couple things just off the top of my head here, Nancy, with some of the sessions. Obviously, the first day there's the typical opening session, and on day two, Tracy Behan, who runs the Washington office, is actually going to do a fireside chat, if you will, with some folks from EPA. Jennifer McLean, who's the director of the Office of Groundwater and Drinking Water, obviously has some interesting things in motion down there that pertain to our membership. And then Andrew Sawyer, who's the director of Office of Wastewater, will also be joining Tracy to have a little bit of back and forth about some things that are happening at the agency that everybody in the sector probably should be aware of. And one of the other hot topics that is on the minds of utilities from a regulatory perspective, Nancy, is PFAS, right? Everybody wants to talk about PFAS and what's going on. And, I think there's a couple of different sessions, and the one that I'm kind of focused on here is Robert Chang, who's a member of the Water Utility Council, is facilitating a conversation about a new AWWA resource guide that's going to be available to help utilities kind of stay out in front of the evolving PFAS regulatory environment. And of course, I'm sure everybody's kind of thinking about revisions to the lead and copper rule, which are likely potentially could be released before the summit. But Phil Brandhuber, the chair of AWWA's Inorganics Committee, is going to be leading some discussion of what utilities should be anticipating and preparing for what we think is going to be in the rule. Most likely things like the lead service line inventory and things like that. So they'll be talking about some different strategies that utilities can take on some of those issues. So those are a couple that just come to the top of mind, Nancy.
It's interesting because Denver Water has started a lead service line replacement program.
Mm-hmm.
They've started on the street behind my street. So many of you may have been on a call with me or something like that, where I'm like, wait a minute, I got to go close all the doors to my house, because you can hear them doing that lead service line replacement. It's been a very interesting process to watch. The neighbors.
Waterworks in action.
Excuse me?
Waterworks in action.
Waterworks in action, and I tried to take a couple of photos of the guys, but they don't really want to hang out with me.
They don't want to pose for you, right?
They don't want to pose. But lead and copper is huge. I also think there's a session on premise plumbing.
Yeah, there is actually. There's some work that my colleague Steve Via has helped managed with William Rhodes, and I think they have a really nice balanced panel that has some utilities, some subject matter experts, and actually some building owners in really focusing, Nancy, on how they're implementing some of those guidelines to deal with, premise plumbing issues and stagnation following a COVID shutdown, right? And in some cases, some of these buildings have been closed since March. And as things like schools or other businesses kind of come back online, depending on what phase your community's in, it's really important to kind of take as consideration of water quality management. And so they'll be talking about some strategies that can be employed there.
Yeah, that's cool. I've seen a lot of stuff. We were talking earlier offline. I do like the TikTok, and I also am looking at Twitter. And I've been told to get off TikTok by Kevin. But one of the things I've seen is a lot of conversation around premise plumbing and people reopening offices and reopening schools, and then lead in schools based on reopening them.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a fascinating session to go to kind of see what's happening.
Yeah, so I think between a couple of those sessions I mentioned, there'd be some useful information for people to apply in their own operating environment.
Yeah. Well, one that I'm really looking forward to, and I've had a little bit of a hand in it, but given what's happening in society and some of the movement around diversity and inclusion, we're going to do a session called "What is the Next Big Step? Bringing Diversity and Inclusion into the Boardroom." And I have to tell you, I heard a rehearsal and I just thought it was fantastic. Some of these conversations are hard to have, but part of it is just starting the conversation. And we're very, very lucky to have leaders from DC Water, Stantec, Arcadis, and Clayton County Water in Georgia talk about how they are moving the needle in that and things that they're thinking about as companies and water utilities. It's going to be a really, really fantastic session.
Great. Yeah, there's been a lot of important developments on that front. So it'll be interesting to see what they're able to share.
And earlier on this thing, I was kind of joking about the weather. Most people know you, Kevin, as the emergency response guy and the warn guy.
Natural disaster.
What, snow in September?
Hey,
Well, I saw a shot in Montana, but a lot of times that's what we know you for. You're dealing with hurricanes or earthquakes. The other thing that you're really known for is cybersecurity.
Sure.
As we're talking about TikTok and you're talking to me about cybersecurity, are we doing anything around cybersecurity at this conference?
Yeah, actually, we have a really nice session. It's kind of combined, and it kind of parlays into another session I'll talk about as well. But cybersecurity is probably the universal threat to anybody, whether you're just a TikTok user, casual TikTok user, you're doing online banking from home or Skyping in from home and connecting to your network back at the corporate headquarters, something like that. But water utilities are critical infrastructure, and we know they're being targeted. And so there's a number of things that utilities can do, and AWWA has developed a lot of really good sources over the last 10, 12 years to help utilities kind of advance in their kind of what I would call cyber risk management. And so there is a session on that that's being facilitated by a good friend Patrick Norton down at Tampa Bay Water, and has a number of professionals on there that can share some of the resources AWWA developed and some perspectives on how some utilities have gone about taking on that risk. That goes into the other one, Nancy, that's sort of related is we have a session on that I'm moderating on complying with the America's Water Infrastructure Act of 2018. And that requires all utilities serving greater than 3,300 to do risk and resilience assessment and emergency response plan. So the really large utilities have gone through the first phase of that. And I think we have a panel of folks Christine Hernan, who's done some really interesting work with large utilities and some lessons they've learned that can be transferred to the smaller and medium systems. Some good discussion from Jen Heyman with American Water on source water protection, right? That's the key source. So how do you,
Right.
there's some new tools in the toolbox to help utilities protect that. And then we have a summary on a really important resilience project that the Water Research Foundation sponsors. So kind of bundle those together, and I think utilities will, attendees will find it useful in helping them kind of move forward as they progress with their compliance as well.
One of the things that you and I have talked about at some point is some of these medium and small utilities who don't think they're going to get hacked.
Yeah.
It's like my mom on Facebook. Hello.
Size doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm still thinking about my mother on Facebook. So, but
well, I'm talking about utilities, right?
I know.
Your ones and zeros on the internet. So,
right.
If you're not putting up the blocking and tackling.
Right. Well, at least if you dialed in to hear that and registered to hear that session, at least you would leave it somewhat prepared, knowing questions to ask, or at least have the conversation. I mean, that's what it seems like to me. A lot of stuff we're doing at Virtual Summit is what do you need to be thinking about? What is the next big thing? What is the latest on PFAS, PFOA,
right.
AWWA? What do you, as a water utility or a consultant, need to be thinking about?
Well, and I would just say real quickly is we've also developed some materials specifically for small and medium systems on both of those subjects I was just talking about. So I think we'll be hitting on those points and how folks can access those materials as well. So so what other sessions are you most interested in, Nancy?
So there are a couple, and I have to smile about them. One is being by the young professionals. And what I'm super excited about is, many of you may not know, but I used to work with the young professionals, and I just see this whole group developing and growing. And so they're talking about what they need in a career, what opportunities they're seeking. And Chiho Sham, our incoming president, is going to facilitate that conversation. But GM, who is the vice chair of the YP committee, will be on there. Wendy Wilkes, who used to work out of our DC office, will be on there. I'm really excited to know what they're looking for. I know, working with my young professionals in section services, they're always pushing me to do more and be better and be innovative and think about things differently. So I'm super excited about that kind of stuff, learning about that. And then
I'm a little disappointed I don't qualify for that group anymore, Nancy. I tried, but they wouldn't let me join.
Now that I'm 25 again.
Say love me.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm super excited about that. And, there's some really big name speakers and some really exciting people. George Hawkins is always a favorite of mine.
Oh, yeah. Very dynamic.
Yeah. And, Brent Alsbach, who does a lot of stuff that I find, he's fingers in so many pies. It's always interesting. And then there are a lot of people that I've met randomly. I mean, you mentioned Christine Herndon and Jennifer Heyman. There are a lot of these speakers and these women and men and who are members that you'll run across every once in a while, but I've never had the opportunity to see them speak. Are you looking forward to any speaker or anything?
Yeah, I guess one of the other tracks that I'm kind of particularly keen to kind of jump into, Nancy, and it's sort of tangentially related to cybersecurity, but there's a lot of really cool new innovations. What do you call it? Smart water or innovative water that have some real promise in how utilities kind of improve workflow and create some really kind of interesting efficiencies. Now, I will caution them, though, that if you're going to do that, right, if you're going to connect up, then you got to do it right and make sure you secure your system. But some really promising technologies and approaches there. We've got a whole track that covers that stuff. So I'm interested to see what those folks are able to share.
Yeah, one of the things that you and I had sort of talked about and have gone back and forth on is this idea of consumer confidence. How do you communicate in the virtual age? I know that AWWA is doing things differently, and so is section services, and looking at those communication tools and trying to be thoughtful about who you're reaching out to and the messages that you're sending, but trying to be secure and keep everything together. It's a lot.
Yeah, there's actually one of my colleagues, Adam Carpenter, led a project, Nancy, that's sort of about building consumer confidence, and it's really based on a national survey that we conducted to kind of look at, well, what do people think about their water? And there are some there's some good news, and there's some clearly some opportunities for improvement. But I think that that's really important information to utility managers to think about, and how do they engage their public to be their advocate. They're serving them as well, and so that information is very useful in how you approach those things. So.
Yeah, and the one I'm interested in is around strengthening trust in an era of mistrust. And everything is, with the advent of social media and newspapers and Twitter and all that kind of stuff, things are going back and forth, back and forth. So how do you, learn to trust what your water utility is telling you? How can you be part of the solution? Are there things you can do in terms of looking at your utility report card? I mean, lots of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
But we are getting close. I've enjoyed our time speaking. You and I could go back and forth.
We could talk for a long time, Nancy.
For a long time. But there's one session that I'm so excited about. And that's about, I think he's going to be my new best friend. His name is Vessel, and he is the leak detection dog.
Yes, yes.
I'm very excited to know how they trained this dog to detect leaks.
See, that would be a perfect analog technology with no cybersecurity risk, Nancy. I love it.
It's so true. But I mean, think about it. They have all these, ways of doing all of this leak detection. It'd be interesting to see this innovative process.
Hey, all comers, a full team.
Right. Well, Kevin, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you calling in and hanging out with me.
Absolutely. I hope you don't get snowed in today, Nancy.
You'll shovel the sidewalk.
I'll have
for
to
me.
come save you again.
That's right. Well, here's the thing. You guys, you can participate in the virtual summit from the comfort of your own home. You just need to register. I think we're going to put up the registration link so that you can all see it. We're very excited about it. There's lots more in the program than just the sessions we've highlighted. So please think about joining us on September 23rd and 24th. Thanks.
Thank you.